and not have sex on the Sabbath, and other things you cannot do on the Sabbath. All right, Shalom, Israel. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, or Kaha, Kwadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And as always, double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And I wanted to do a video confronting this this doctrine that's going around where you got guys in the ministry teaching that you can have sex on the Sabbath. Okay. And this is a doctrine that's completely going off. It's not scriptural. Okay. And there's nowhere in the scriptures where it says that you can have sex on the Sabbath. Okay. And, once again, this really goes back to Jake wanting to do what he wants to do instead of what the Lord said what to do, And there's a lot of guys out there like that, guys who basically want to do their own thing, They want to live a life of wantonness. They don't want to be corrected. They don't want to live by the morals or standards which the Lord has given to our nation. And another thing that Jake don't understand is that the reason why Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai gave us the laws, statutes, and commandments was to make us separate from every other nation on the planet. Because you see, heathens, they eat all manner of unclean things. Case in point, you got the gooks over there. They like to eat live squid. They eat lobsters. They eat crabs. They eat roaches, worms. Okay, they'll chop off the rod of a tiger or a elephant. They'll cook it and eat it. And then they'll enter a marathon race and they'll literally outrun Jake, They do all these crazy ass kung fu kicks and punches and backflips and, they're perfectly fine. But the minute Jake starts eating unclean foods, the minute Jake starts to commit adultery and get tattoos, he gets punished for it. Why? Amos, the 3rd chapter, I will punish you for all your iniquities. And what is iniquity? Sin. What is sin? Sin is transgression of the law. Who was the laws given to? The Israelites, which are the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians. And at the end of the day, this all goes back to the Garden of Eden, where Jake basically wanted to live like the heathen. Okay, because our people saw how the heathen were living in the Garden of Eden. Because you have three types of men. Okay, you have the sons of God, which will later be known as the Israelites that were living in the Garden of Eden. Those were the sons of God. Then you have the sons of men, which today will be known as your Arabs, your Chinese and Japanese people, your North and South Koreans, your Taiwanese, okay, your so-called white people, okay, the Africans, the Hawaiians, okay, them small hats in the land of Israel, okay, 1948ers. I mean, Salakia, no, Salakia, not them, Salakia. Salakia, let me rephrase that. Slip of the tongue, not of the heart. You got your sons of men, which are your Arabs, your Africans, your Chinese, your Japanese people, the Taiwanese, okay, the Hawaiians, and the Africans and the East Indians. I believe I already said the Arabs. These are your sons of men that was in the Garden of Eden. And then you have the sons of the wicked, which will be the Edomites, which will be your so-called white people and your small hatters in the land of Israel. Okay, humping the walls, coming out of sewage drains. Okay, your small hatters. So in the Garden of, this rebellion really goes back to the Garden of Eden, where, it started off with Eve, diving into the philosophies and the customs of the other nations, which the other nations had picked up, and then going back to Adam and showing Adam, these various, you know, different customs which the heathens were doing. And then what happened? Adam and Eve started, they started taking on the customs of those heathens. And now what do you have? Rebellion. You have rebellion born into the earth. So this rebellion that our people have dived into, it really goes back to the Garden of Eden. It's the same spirits coming back. It's Jake basically who wants to live after the manner of the heathen instead of what the Lord said how to live. So I'm gonna start off here in the book of Ezekiel 20 verse 19. Okay, where it says, I am Yahweh, your God. Walk in my statutes and keep them. Now in the Garden of Eden, the laws, statutes, and commandments were oral. They were not written down. They were oral. Okay. But now we have it written on paper. Or you can read it from your computer screen. But it says, I am Yahweh, your power, walk in my statutes and keep my judgments and do them. Okay, and judgments is what you execute based on the transgressions of what our people commit. Okay, and hallow my Sabbaths. Now, if we look up this word hallow, right? The Lord said hallow his Sabbaths, right? The Hebrew word there is what? Kodash. Okay. And it literally means to consecrate, sanctify, prepare, dedicate, be hallowed, be holy. And that's what I want to draw your attention to. Be holy. The word holy means to make separate. When you sanctify something, that means you make it separate, right? And right here, what do we have? It says to be separate, right? To be set apart, be consecrated. Okay. It says to show oneself sacred or majestic, to be honored, to be treated as sacred. Something that is sacred is holy. There's many words for holy. You got consecrate, you have sacred. Okay. Right here we have what? To be set apart as sacred. So ultimately, sacred, holy, consecrate, it means to set apart as separate. So when you hallow the Sabbath, right? That means you make the Sabbath day separate from any other day of the week. Now we know that the Sabbath is based upon the new moon. And whatever day the new moon falls upon, and I believe that's presuming to Isaiah 66. Okay, the Lord tells you that from one new moon, from one Sabbath, and from one new moon to another uh shall Israel come and worship before him. Just roughly paraphrasing. Okay. So whatever day the new moon falls on, that's the Sabbath. That's the day that the Sabbath is on every other day of the week. Okay. So if the new moon falls on a Wednesday, for an example, like tonight will be the Sabbath, right? Because the new moon was last week. So if the new moon falls, if the new moon falls on a Wednesday, right? Wednesday on a Wednesday night. That means every Wednesday night until the next new moon is the Sabbath. So that means every Sabbath day, that day is supposed to be holy, put apart as separate. So the Sabbath is the one day of the week that you basically you don't go to work, you don't have sex, you don't cook, you don't kindle a fire, you don't do any type of work, you know. Now some of us were in captivity, so we are merely rehearsing the righteous acts, right? So we keep the law, statutes, and commandments that we can keep to the best of our ability. We're not going to be saved on keeping the law, but keeping the law is a part of how we show our faith toward Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, that we believe in him, which is also a part of our works, as it tells you in Second Esdras, the 9th chapter. And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed, okay, which is the elect. We know the elect is going to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments the correct way to the best of their ability. Okay, so when you hallow the Sabbath, you make the Sabbath day separate from any other day of the week. Okay, on every other day of the week outside of the Sabbath, you can cook and have sex and go to work and da 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 da, right? But when it comes to the Sabbath, which is supposed to be a holiday, Jay got a problem with that. That's why the Lord is going to bring judgment on a lot of niggas. So here, right, in Leviticus 15, verse 16, it says this, and if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water and be unclean until the even. Now, let's continue reading. Then I'll get into the breakdown of that. And every garment and every garment and every skin whereon the seed of copulation shall be washed with water and be unclean until the even. And the woman also with whom man shall lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the even. Okay, so let's read this in the NLT real quick. Leviticus 15, verse 16. Whenever a man has an emission of semen, that means if a man busts off, right, he must bathe his entire body in water, and he will remain ceremonially unclean until the next morning. So You're not supposed to make yourself unclean on the Sabbath. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove to you that you're not supposed to make yourself unclean on the Sabbath. Any clothing or leather with semen on it must be washed in water and will remain unclean until evening. After a man and a woman have sexual intercourse, they must each bathe in water, and they will remain unclean until the next morning. Now, if we come over here, right, this is the definition for unclean from google.com.
Unclean.
And it says dirty, right? And then it says morally wrong. So, I mean, you're not morally wrong from releasing semen, you know, but to to release semen on a Sabbath and make yourself unclean is morally wrong, right? And down here, what do we have? Dirty, filthy, grubby, grimy, monkey, foul, foul, impure, adulterated, tainted, tarnished, you know, stained, soiled. You soil yourself when you release semen, okay? Polluted, right? Polluted. There goes that word polluted. Now, show you, right? We come over here to Exodus, the 31st chapter. It says this, okay? Exodus 31 verse 14. Ye shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy, it is separate, a separate day unto you. Every one that defileth it shall surely be put to death. And whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to Yahweh. Whosoever doeth any work in the seventh day, he shall surely be put to death. Okay, so if we look up this word defileth, right, which also goes to show you that you're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. But of course, again, we are in captivity. You know, you might have to work on the Sabbath. You know, the Lord is not going to destroy you for going to work when you're forced to go to work on the Sabbath. Because see, back in the ancient world, it was different. You know, back in the ancient world, you know, you wasn't forced to work on the Sabbath. You know, and a matter of fact, you know, that was a day of rest. So there was no businesses open, no marketplaces open, none of that shit. Okay, everybody was basically resting on the Sabbath. But here in this heathenistic society, you know, if you call off every week on the Sabbath, right, you could possibly lose your job and be homeless. So you know the scriptures speak about being overly righteous. So you know we're not going to just call off every week on a Sabbath. Oh, hey, excuse me. Yeah, Miss Mary. Yeah, today is the Sabbath. Unfortunately, I can't come in. Oh, well, they're going to consider you a liability. So, you know, scriptures speak about being wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. So, some of us unfortunately have to work on the Sabbath. So the Lord is not going to destroy you because you're forced to work on the Sabbath. Now, and if we come over here, right, I believe that word there is halal. Okay, it's halal. Okay, so that's the Hebrew word for defile, right? And what do we see right here? To profane, defile, pollute, desecrate, and what do we see right here for the word unclean? We see the word polluted, okay, right there, polluted. So when you defile the Sabbath, right, when you make yourself unclean, you pollute yourself. So the Lord said that if you defile yourself on the Sabbath, then you're going to be put to death. Okay, it says pollute oneself. So let's check this out now, right? Now the Hebrew word for defile, which is kalal. It says to profane oneself, defile oneself, pollute oneself, whether if it's ritually or sexually. Okay, so it says to profane, make common, defile, pollute, violate the honor of, dishonor. So so when you have sex on the Sabbath, you're dishonoring the Lord, man. So the point is that to defile the Sabbath means to profane oneself, defile oneself, or pollute oneself ritually or sexually. So you cannot have sex on the Sabbath. And anybody who's teaching that you can have sex on the Sabbath, they're going off, and the Most High is going to deal with you. Okay? Whosoever shall break one of these commandments and shall teach man so, he shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. Meaning you're going to be destroyed on this side and you're going to come back as a 2/3 in the kingdom. Okay? So, here's more proof that you're not supposed to kindle a fire on the Sabbath, which means you cannot cook on the Sabbath. Because in order to cook on the Sabbath, you have to kindle a fire, right? So Exodus 35 verse 3, it says, Ye shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations upon the Sabbath day. Okay, so you're not allowed to cook. You're not allowed to have sex on the Sabbath. Okay, if it's your day off on the Sabbath, don't go calling your job, asking them if you can come in just to get more hours, because then that makes you a sinner willfully. Okay, okay, so pretty much that concludes this lesson. I'll pray this lesson was edifying. If this video made sense to you, leave a comment in the comment section below. Okay, you cannot have sex on the Sabbath. You cannot cook on the Sabbath. You're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. With that, I'm going to say, Shalom. But again, if you have to work on the Sabbath, the Lord's not going to destroy you for that. Some of us are forced to work on the Sabbath, because we're in captivity, okay? We are rehearsing the righteous acts. But there are laws, statutes, and commandments that you can keep to the best of your ability. But one of the laws that you can keep to your ability is not having sex on the Sabbath and not cooking on the Sabbath, Well, wait a minute, I ain't had no food in my fridge. Well, guess what? You could buy cold cuts before the Sabbath come in, okay? Turkey bologna, beef bologna, bread, mayonnaise, okay? There's food you can buy before the Sabbath come in, so there ain't no excuses, okay? And me personally, if there's no dry foods such as crackers or you know tortilla chips and dip or whatever to eat on the Sabbath, if there's none of those things, if there's none of those things, then more than likely I'm just going to go on a fast. Not to be overly righteous, but because you're supposed to be afraid to want to cook on the Sabbath, you know. But anyways, with that, I'm gonna say shalom. It's on to the next one.